I had them put together.
That'd be a lot better. We're doing a super nice of our ACL presentation from the archaeology here. And then they have the afternoon to work on the weeks to finish all of their goals and everything.
It's like this, writing, math. She's got, there's 4 or 5 of these.
All right, good morning, everyone. If you guys are happy to get started, then we'll be happy to start. I think that we're going to have an intro here.
We want to make sure that you definitely get signed up and then grabbing your nameplate. That way it's definitely being interactive. Just to start off, I want to give UCM opportunities to give us some rolling announcements of things going on. We're going to run through intros. We're just going to do real briefly, the only committee update I'm going to give you is basically just the economics and where that is, because we finally got our dues check in from the state. Again, I'm doing a consent agenda where I just sent all that out to you so we can get right to the meat of why we're here. You all definitely notice the wine box in the back. I know some of you more than others are looking at that wine box. The idea in the realm, remember, that's what we're doing for our big spring basket. I'm going to, because of where I'm at, get a large donation from Osceola Cheese, and we're going to combine that with the wine, throw a bunch of really catchy sayings on it, dealing with the wine of our parents, etc. So things that we deal with. So please, if you weren't able to bring one this time, you know, you can bring it next time. The legislators probably really love that. A reminder that that meeting is February 12th on a Friday. That's the only meeting we do differently on a day. We do that for the legislatures. I will be sending out an RSVP because we feed you for that day. And I do understand it is a February, it's a different day, but again, very powerful to have our legislators here to kind of go through Q&A, what's kind of going on in the state, with all the different things. With Wayne Martin coming way back in October, your mind should be set forward to the different things going on in your districts and around that totally affect what's going on. We've been dealing with weather. Want to take the time, at this time, Mr. Joe Bidler sitting in our back, was named our distinguished, so I think he deserves a big round of applause. Joe is now in the middle of, see Kelly's chuckling because he was doing this last year and I was doing it a couple of years ago, several of us here, of the nice job, long narrator that you've got to do and a bunch of the paperwork and photos and stuff like that. But it is just a great honor, very well deserved. Dawn McNeely's not here. She is our outstanding new principal. We did not have an assistant that was nominated, so we just turned in exactly what we have. So at this time, we're going to take care of UCM announcements. Ms. Hutchinson.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to campus. We're not underway here yet, but we're glad to have you off to a good start back in your own building, I hope. We get fired up next week, so if any of you are looking to take some classes, starting ed specialist or certification or whatever, please let us know, and it's not too late to get signed up, so come join us in an educational endeavor. I'd like to introduce my new colleague this year, Dr. Brian McDonald. Brian is split with the RPDC and our group in ed leadership, and we're very pleased to have him here. In both capacities, he is an amazing educator and a welcome to campus. Let us know if there's anything that we can do for you.
Real quick, can you give us a rolling realm of where our treasury is at?
Yes, for treasury, we had our MASP dues that we got from them. Our check was $1,575, $4,575, plus Chris had given me some checks as well, so I had $90 more to deposit, which brought our total to $4,109.94. And then we paid Kevin Daniel for our presentation today, and then the gift card for the day, and our total now is $3,798.87.
Again, one of the things that we decided as a group, been coming to these meetings for a long time, and I felt, in being the president and with the officers, we need to start spending some of our money for quality. And so that's what we're doing. And feel very blessed to have these two gentlemen here to go over some of the great knowledge that they have, but I feel that you've got to pay for that. And so that's what I feel, when you're paying those dues, I want those dues to go for something that you feel is very well merited. Miss Sandra, I know you just bounced in and everything, but do you or Kevin have any rolling legislative things? We have our meeting coming up in February.
We do, it's that Friday, and I have the NAESP summary of ESSA. I sat through a webinar yesterday about it, specifically related to Title I. So if you haven't read through this, NAESP has done a really good job of summarizing the most important components. Looking through the webinar with my Title I teacher, I didn't see a whole lot of changes there. But there's a lot of stuff with money and maybe an increased emphasis on early childhood education, which a lot of us will be really glad to see. So I do have this, I'll leave this copy back here. It's easy to download though or print. I also have Better Schools for Missouri pledge cards. This is for lobbying. Maybe familiar with the old MCPAC acronym. MCPAC is the political action committee branch. They call it Better Schools for Missouri now. It has to be individual donations. You cannot do this with personal funds. And this is 2016 is going to be a very important election year for us. And the very last thing, I'd like to pass these around. I'm in charge of inviting our legislators. If I could just start these down here and take a copy, I think that's all enough for everybody. I want to make sure that I haven't missed anybody. We've got 4 senators on this list and about 12 or 13 representatives, so please look over. If somebody from your area isn't on this list, I don't think CMA-SP region has changed at all, and actually none of our representatives have changed because last year was not an election year, but their committee assignments have. So I did note which committees they are on, and all of these people will be invited to our legislative lunch. But if I have missed anybody from your region, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay, just a real quick intro, just everybody knows exactly where we're all coming from. So we'll start up here with Miss Christine.
Christine Johnson, Sterling Elementary in Warrensburg. Melissa Markholz, Richfield Elementary in Warrensburg.
Florida Castle, Martin Warren in Warrensburg.
Jonathan M., Maple Grove Elementary here in Martinsburg.
Chandra Arbuckle, Pleasant Hill Elementary School.
Sandra Haight, Pleasant Hill Primary School.
Rob McDonald, UCM.
Tammy Bergman,
Rick Gray, Clinton Intermediate. Jake Kinney, I'm an assistant at Intermediate.
Rachel Hammers, Green Ridge.
Melissa Snell, Lamont.
Sam Hutchinson, UCM.
Linda Florence, Littleville Elementary.
Joe Biden, Concordia Elementary.
Got me.
Jenny Case, Greenfield Elementary in Haynesville.
And I'm Chris McClymans from Osceola. These gentlemen are going to go for about an hour and a half, okay? Because again, I brought some quality. It's hard to slide that in, especially as long-winded as I am, and I've taken some of their time. So, without no further ado, I'd like to introduce Will Cadilla and Jason Waltz.
Thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate you coming out in the cold and freezing rain this morning. That was fun. And so I just want to introduce ourselves a little bit. My name is Jason Waltz, and I am coming from the Raymore Peculiar School District. I've been there for my entire career. I'm also wrapping up my grad work here with UCM, entirely online. That was amazing. And so I'm currently in an instructional technology specialist position. This is a year and a half into that. Prior to that, I was in the classroom in various grade levels, predominantly at the elementary level. And so always integrated technology massively into what I do. And so it's been an evolving practice, as I'm sure you all have experienced in your buildings. And so looking forward to sharing a little bit about that journey with you today. Will here, say a little word about himself.
My name is Will Cadella. I'm an elementary art teacher, also in the Ringbank School District.
and also a UCM alum here. I got my graduate degree here several years ago, mostly online as well. So we are going to be presenting a whole lot about educational technology today. We're going to cover some of the why, we're going to cover some of the how. So Casey's going to go ahead and get us started there.
Very good. I want to start with sharing with you guys, we do have a back channel. Right up here on these slides, you can see todaysmeet.com/firedup. I'd like to invite you to go to that, post away. We will be checking in on it throughout the presentation. So, for example, if I'm speaking, Will will be checking in every now and then. When he's speaking, I'll be doing the same. We do have the link to our slide presentation on today's meet, so if you'd like to go and gain access to that, it's there waiting for you. Also, the schedule is here, and we're going to stick with that unreligiously. And so I'm going to phrase it that way. Twitter handles are there for you if you'd like to follow us. We are more than welcoming towards you following us and joining with us on Twitter. Professional learning networks are an awesome tool. And so if you're one who avails himself to Twitter, please follow us. We will follow you back. One thing that I'd like to talk to you about this morning is about keeping your eyes on the target with technology. Okay, technology in the classroom is an amazing thing. It is a very engaging thing. The kids, it's speaking their language oftentimes. That's often misinterpreted for some, though, because as we all know, some come from homes where it is not a technology-rich environment, and so coming to school is the only time they have a device in front of them. And so one thing that I do want to talk to you about is just a little fun thing here, and keeping your eyes on the target. We all are hopefully familiar with the old Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, these are the modern hierarchy of needs. You may have seen this going around in social media. There's a base that has now been added, Wi-Fi. We need Wi-Fi. And so another thing that you think about with modern needs, battery life. We've got to have the battery life. How many of us have been on our cell phones and it's going dead and you have that panic, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so just a fun way to get started with that. But I do want to go toward a serious note here. Let's talk about two concepts. And I've seen these at work at kindergarten classrooms, and I've seen this at work at seniors in high school, 12th grade level. You see an approach by the teachers that's either one of these. Now, there's always a gray area in between, of course, but when the predominant emphasis is tech for tech, you will always see a less robust experience for the kids. The engagement level wanes really fast when it's tech for tech. It might be fun for a moment, but then it's okay, what are we doing, you know? And then you go in to observe a teacher who's taking that tech for the sake of tech approach. And what do you see? You see them having to manage a whole lot of issues that are going on with the device. And, well, we're going to soldier through and we're going to integrate technology because it's here and we spent a lot of money and I feel this pressure and I kind of feel the desire as well. I want to, but I don't really know how. And so let me just do it because I'm going to do it. And then you have others who do it because, well, it's tech for the sake of tech because they are personally passionate about technology. That was me. My very first year in the classroom, it was a charge given to me by my principal. She said, I don't want you to blend in with that team. Little did she know she was setting me up for big failure. I don't want you to do what that team's doing. Just between the two of us, I want you to do all these things you're talking about with technology. And I was like, okay, cool. And so what did I do? I jumped right in, used the interactive whiteboard. It was a smart board that hadn't been used. It was gathering dust. And so I've got these little second graders going up there and they're moving on set and rhyme digital tools together that I've created, you know, until 11 o'clock at night, you know, and I'm throwing that all up there. And it was tech for the sake of tech. Now, I evolved my practice to become tech for the sake of target. And that was quite the journey. Now, in my district, we've made the transition towards standards reference reporting, and that's been very instrumental in that process and in that journey for me. Some of the things that I've noticed is when we integrate technology for the sake of targets, and what I mean by that is learning targets, you know, then what we have are kids who are engaged for the right reasons. Kids who are engaged because It's about learning. And this is a tool that's going to help me in a 21st century facet or style fulfill those learning targets and achieve that learning ID. It's goal and data driven when it's tech for target. When you see tech for the sake of tech, you'll find a teacher who's going, oh, I don't really want to do that. That's kind of boring and dry. No, thank you. You know, because they want the fun. And don't hear me wrong. I think that technology, which is fun, that's good. It's going to engage kids. If you're doing technology as a paper substitute, it's never going to engage anyone. In fact, it's going to be more work because, quite frankly, technology doesn't work well as a paper substitute alone. It's meant to be creative. It's meant to be used for what I like to call the little circle of engagement. Okay, the little circle of engagement is that webcam that's on any given device. A lot of people are using Chromebooks. A lot of them are using iPads. And so, in doing so, with either of those devices, you have that webcam. This is a selfie generation. They love having their picture taken. They love having something that's video-based. And so using technology that is for the sake of target, that's engaging the kids, that's fun for them, it's also going to be that hidden curriculum piece where they're getting those 21st century skills in a almost seamless way because they're still focused on the target and they're doing fun things with the device in the midst of that. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit. I would like Will to go ahead and jump in and share his section. That's kind of the premise that we're coming from with our presentation. We're going to be talking about tech for target. We're going to be talking about technology that's integrated in an engaging way for the purpose of learning.
Thank you, Jason. And he hit the nail right on the head. I'm going to ask you real quick. Can you hear my voice all right? I don't teach in my classroom with a microphone, although I probably should sometimes when I get a little under the weather. Excuse me. So if you can hear me all right, I'm just going to go ahead and not use that microphone if that's fine. I love running. And about a year ago, I'm running down the road. And I live out in the country. And I see almost nobody on these roads. But one day I'm running, it's a hot day. And I see some guy running. Actually, he was just walking about a mile from me. I figured I might be able to catch up with him. I didn't catch up with him. And long story made short, after exchanging pleasantries, I found out he actually worked for a major telecommunications company. And I saw him. I said, well, you know what? I'm a teacher, and I love teaching with technology in my classroom. I'm actually getting ready to start teaching coding skills. He goes, oh, yeah, I taught myself coding. I said, really? How did you teach yourself coding? He said, well, that's a funny story. He said, in this telecommunications company, he was in a department with tons and tons of people, and he decided to go ahead and start playing around with some Excel spreadsheet scripts. And he found a way to write a little code that automated most of his job. Well, his superiors found out exactly what he was doing, immediately called him to the office, and he said, to get right to the point, this is where the story took kind of a strange turn. He looked down, we were walking together, he looked down at the floor, at the ground, I should say, and he smiled, and he said, yeah, a lot of people got fired. I got a question for you. We look at these images up here of all the automation, all the robots that are replacing tons of people in our workforce, and some people might get a little afraid of this. Do we see the difficulty in the opportunity or the opportunity in the difficulty? Who designed these robots? Who designed these programs? Who's writing all this code? People. So here's my question for you. Are we using technology to empower or to replace our students? See, that's a question we have to ask every single day. How are we using technology to empower students? You know, yesterday, we're teachers, all right? Yesterday, in my 4th grade class, I'm having them hack Google Slides, hacking in a good way, all right? Hacking Google Slides to turn it into animation software. You just have to change the URL a little bit, kind of change the code. I'm teaching them how to do this, and it's pretty tough stuff. I mean, we're elementary educators for the most part, right? Teaching these little 10-year-olds how to hack this code and turn Google Slides into animation software was a big thing to put on their plate, but they did it. And by the time they're leaving my class, I got a group of them saying, I love doing this. I can't wait to do this. They're opening up their Chromebooks. I'm trying to get them lined up so I can get my next class in. And they're opening up the Chromebooks, saying, can I do this at home? Can I do this at home? And the kid is very into line. His name's Bo. He's walking out of my class. It's like an epiphany to him. He heard these other kids and he goes, wait a second. I can do this at home too? And he walked out of my class, he goes, yes! That's engagement, isn't it? How many behavior problems do you think I had in that class? 0. When you talk about engagement, the cornerstone to engagement is empowering students. When students are empowered with technology, you can help to see the motivation and engagement skyrocket. All right? Now, we're going to cover just 3 things real quick. How do you do this? The first one, when you use technology, make sure kids are creating with it. Give them permission to use their imaginations. Allow them to be innovative. Who's ruling the stock market right now? It's these startups, right? These people come from nowhere. They're called unicorns. They come from absolutely nowhere, and they're founding billion-dollar companies like Uber just out of nowhere, right? It's because they broke the mold. They were innovative. They had to collaborate, be creative. Move on. We must collaborate. We live in a global world. When we say collaborate, we do pair share in my room. We were doing that yesterday in my classes. And when I say collaboration, I'm talking about more than just talking to students in our classroom. Let's make the world our collaborative team. And the last C I want to talk about is curation. We live in a world where I can literally have video of my class and within minutes have it edited and on YouTube and have that authentic, safe audience for my classroom within minutes. And Jason's going to be talking about how do you create that authentic, safe audience as well. There are some pitfalls we have to avoid. Nothing's easy in education. That's why we get paid to be able to do, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Jason.
So when you look at, sorry about that, when you do consider those 3 C's, and you get into this concept of curation, one of the biggest things that you've got to worry about, and this is a big deal, guys, is how can we integrate engaging technology while respecting the privacy of our students? And this is a big hot button topic right now in education, as I'm sure you're very aware of. The big legislation that's related to this is FERPA. This old hat you guys are aware of this, wave at me and this, okay, I got that, yeah. Yeah, FERPA is one of those things that we all kind of go, oh my. And then we have COVID. Okay, these are the 2 primary big legislation pieces that are driving this question right there. And honestly, what a lot of schools, what a lot of educators choose to react as a result of these 2 is to go, how about I don't do it at all? How about I just don't do it? I would contend that that's doing a disservice to our children. You know, it's not that technology is going away in the world. I mean, the other day, the trash collection is taking place outside my home, and sure enough, there on the dashboard is a laptop. Now I'm thinking to myself, why in heaven's name does the trash collection company require a laptop to be on the dashboard of the truck? So I asked the guys, I always shoot the breeze with the guys who come by the house, and so I asked them, why do you need that laptop? Yeah, they require that because we have only certain, we can only have certain weights that go through, and this tracks our weight in real time. And so if we go too heavy, it's going to damage the roads, and then we're liable. Oh my goodness, what is this? And so he continues on and says, and then back at the office, they'll adjust our routes based on the time of year because they want an optimized track that we take in order to limit the gas that's being used. Okay, great. And so technology we see is in the real world, and it's everywhere, it's pervasive. So to pull back because of FERPA and COPA and go, nah, I'm going to avoid that because I just don't want to get in hot water, is really doing a disservice to our children and preparing them for a world that expects that they have technology skills in place. I mean, it used to be back when we were all young and we were heading into the workplace that, okay, yeah, if you have Microsoft skills or you have, you can do Office, wow, that's really a great thing. Now that is like, are you still using Office? A lot of companies are expecting that you're in the cloud. Microsoft is even evolving into, okay, we've got to play catch up. We've got to get on the cloud as well. And so those skills are no longer impressive. They are assumed and expected. Where do we learn these skills? Where do our rural kids learn these skills? Where else than at school? That's where we need to be teaching them. But we need to be respectful of their privacy in the midst of this. And so our state auditor, Nicole Galloway, has announced earlier this year, or last year, that cyber-aware school audits are coming forth. Are we familiar with those? Those are, those are something that's on principals' radars quick. And so there are 5 school districts that are being audited and are in the midst of that. I believe they've already finished 2. But what they're looking for is, are we putting forth due diligence to protect our kids' privacy, their data, their personally identifiable information? And so these are things that have to be considered. And I want to ask you, why? Why must we consider these things? We're not Google. We're not the ones who have those business practices in place. Yeah, but we're using those tools. And so we have to be smart. We have to be thoughtful. We have to include all the stakeholders in this process. It's not as easy as when I first started and went, hey, I'm the only one doing it in the whole school. I can just go. It was like the wild, wild west. It was easy for me in a digital purpose to just jump out there and do whatever I wanted because, they were just glad somebody was doing it. And, you'd have a teacher or two who'd say, oh, hey, Mr. Mullins, could you show me a little bit of that? Could you share that with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure, here. Very much an open source. Let's go. I'll give it to you. If you'll try it, I'll give it to you. But it's time to settle the Wild West in digital means. And so what we're looking at right now is, how is the internet used often right now? It's used like the old teacher supply stores. Oh, okay, cool, I found this great resource, kind of like the old teacher supply store, found that cool book, and you're going to put who cares that second page says, probably shouldn't. I'm not going to tell anyone, you're not going to tell anyone, and we all just kind of, wink, wink, okay, it happened, And so that's not quite the same way things are working on the internet, because when you put things on the internet, and just yesterday I had to go and chat with a teacher colleague of mine who, now I had to interact in an administrative fashion. I'm like, this is awkward, this is really uncomfortable, I gotta do this. He decided to take the entire Daily Spiral Review book, photocopy the thing to a PDF, and upload it to his website, because, hey, that would be really convenient, right? Yeah. This whole copyright infringement thing, that you kind of need to think about. And so those types of approaches need to adapt, and as principals, you are a key cog in that machine of keeping this on the up and up. It's really important that we keep in mind that free is really rarely free. Back in the days of Microsoft Office, what did we have to do every couple of years? It's time to upgrade. Another $200 for that. You do it on the personal level, you do it on the professional level. We're going to have to upgrade. Here we go. And so nowadays, a lot of schools are going Google. Wave at me if your school district or who you work with is a Google Apps for Education scenario. Wave it high. I really do need to see this. It's going to help a lot. Okay, so we've got a good number of people in here who, we're Google Apps. Well, Google Apps is great, and they do have requirements in place to keep personally identifiable information secure within their Google Apps. Here's the problem. A lot of teachers go, hey, it's on Google, it's on the Chrome Web Store. Let me go and add all the third-party apps I can. Well, the problem is that, Google's apps are secure, but those third-party apps are not. And it behooves Google to make those seem like they're just real easy to add, and that's great. And those are fabulous. In fact, one of the things that I'm going to look at here in a moment is a widely used, wonderful solution, but it's one that has a pretty sticky policy. And I want to take a moment to show you this, because frankly, a lot of the fear that's driven by this whole issue right here of, oh my gosh, Galloway's going to come and bust our chops, or, oh my gosh, personally identifiable information. It's not like back in the day with those updates. Now, instead of getting that money, they're not charging us. What they're doing is saying, okay, well, instead of charging you, we're going to give it to you for free, but we're going to take your information and sell it over here in mass to these advertisers, because we really want that money. Sounds great, good exchange, you get it for free, and they get the money behind the scenes. The problem is when we're dealing with children. Okay, Khan Academy. Raise your hand, wave at me real good if Khan Academy is something used in your school or in your district. Okay, Khan Academy is fabulous, wonderful resource. I used it a lot. Oh my gosh, I love that resource. My kids did too. And they recently added this gamification component, which gamification is a wonderful thing where you make the learning experience like a game. And they've added this fantastic resource to their service that basically lets the kids earn badges and do all of this wonderful stuff. But when you look at the terms of service, there are two things I want you to get in the habit of looking at, especially as an administrator. Instead of just saying no outright, join in that conversation. Let's refine our practice. Let's look at the terms of service. Let's look at the other thing, the privacy policies, and find out what is it really saying. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, I would really rather not do this. This is awful. This is horrible. Who wants to read these, right? It's all in legalese. There are two main components that you need to look for. One is this right here. Look at that. Stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? Child user. Okay, we're going to look for that. Are we in the habit of looking at these? You can just nod your head, shake your head. We probably need to start considering these because that's us putting forth due diligence to check it out. And if you're feeling like, good grief, it's just too much, join with your tech department. Join with your academic services or the curriculum department because together we can cover ourselves and cover our teachers and cover our kids from these issues. Okay, so let's look at this child user. Gosh, when you read that, it's not as legalese as you might think at first. Okay, and then I want you to go down here, and what I really want to focus on, then I'll turn this over for Will to say something more happy, is look at this in all caps. Now, we all know if someone sends us a text message in all caps, they're yelling at us, aren't they? We feel that. They're yelling at us right here. I'm just going to take the time to read this. If you are a coach, and that's what they call a teacher, so you're setting up your account and connecting your students' accounts to you. And if you are a coach and you register an account for child user, you represent warrant that you have received express consent from such child user's parent or legal guardian for you to register the child user for the website and for you to provide to Khan Academy the information you disclose in connection with the registration of such child user without limiting the foregoing. You further agree to be bound by these terms on behalf of such child user, including without limitation being liable for all use of the website by the child user for so long as child user is not otherwise associated with or assumed by a valid parent user account. Goodness gracious, that would freak you out, right? Oh my gosh, and it did freak my district out. We were like, oh my gosh, because Khan Academy is used everywhere. Well, what's really required with all this? What did you pick up on that? Parental consent, that's all you need. And so that's why I emphasize, let's get all the stakeholders connected with this. You know, my grandmother, she recently passed, I love her very much, very dearly, but she had a statement that was so good. Don't throw the baby out the bathwater. We've all heard that one. It's age-old. Let's not throw the baby out in the bathwater. You know, Khan Academy is great for learning. Is that worth going to your parents and saying, we'd like your permission for this? It causes us to be intentional. It causes us to think, are we being collaborative in our partnership between everyone involved? Parents, admin, district level, everyone involved. You've got to have everyone involved in order to cover yourself. You know, the curriculum department often gets a bad rap, doesn't it? Oh, here they come. They're going to come over and see what we're doing. Oh, man, here we go. That's the teacher perspective often. What are they going to tell us we have to do, or what are they going to tell us we can't do? I like to think of them as an umbrella. And they are protection over us. But when the digital revolution came toward us about 5 years back in education, suddenly everyone's out from underneath the umbrella and just out there hoping that it stays sunny and warm. And we all know it's going to rain one day. Well, you're going to get audited one day. And this is how you keep yourself from getting rained on. Keep the whole umbrella in place in regards to your digital resources, just like you would any supplemental tools that you used at the teacher supply store. That help? And so we'll take us from that hairy concept back to something a little.
That's all right. I do have to make a note there. It's gentlemen like this, wonderful men and women behind the scenes, protecting teachers, protecting students, and we always appreciate that. Now let's take a little break here just for a moment. In our schedule, I believe it's time for a break. We want to take like a little summer activity. Just take a few minutes out. And in your groups, here's what you want to focus on. What is laying on your heart, right? We know a lot happens down here. Some happen up here. But what's happening right here in your heart? Ask these questions. What do you have to do now to take that next step? Or maybe if you're pretty far behind, to start on this process of digital transformation in your schools, in your classes, with your teachers and your students. What are those next steps? We'll give you a few minutes to go ahead and discuss that with your little table groups. Go ahead and begin.
We have published it.
Are we doing two?
Still haven't heard about it. They just put two more schools over in the street side. I mean, the kids haven't decided about anything. And so this was the time. And we're still waiting on, you know,
What's that? Oh, let me help you.
they have, they all have their Google email addresses, and so she begged her to make an appointment on Monday or Tuesday, so they can talk about their learning targets for that week. And so once they schedule her, they'll start working. In fact, they're working with your teachers.
Yeah, the slideshow's in there. Right?
Thank you.
I don't know, but I just like,
I'm just trying to think
Oh,
about
right. I'm like, that's application.
we have a lot of teachers who are engaging in that, but I still think,
About 52 seconds.
but we also don't have, I still think it goes back to what's our vision for technology usage. And when you're in a meeting and you're finding out for the first time that elementary is going to be iPads and secondary is going to be laptops, that's a really narrow, short-sighted vision. Because what you're telling me is your graphic design classes won't be using iPads. Does that make sense? I mean, to me, you should be diversifying based on the needs of what programming is saying. I mean, Morris Collins talked to me for 45 minutes in the parking lot about meetings. Morris Collins, he was picking up his grandkids, and he just said, I want to know what our 5-year plan and our 10-year plan is. I want to know what our vision is. He said, Dr. Peters, on evaluation side, I want to ask that question. Where is it? And I said, I'd like to see 10 more pre-K. I have read you in 5 minutes. But I said, those are the funds too. He said, we need to have a plan for those things. And I said, it goes deeper. It's still
One thing that I did want to address real quick is on the back channel, so
that's the
again,
hardest
it's
part to do. What's the next step?
/firedup. We did have a question on there that I'll address. And also, we have the Twitter hashtag, if you're on Twitter, that is hashtag KD, or Kevin Daniel, fired up. And so all one word. The question on the back channel, really good one, and it's a vital one to what we're discussing. And that is, well, what do we do when there's a couple parents or a few parents who they don't want it? No, I don't want my kid involved with that. No, I don't trust that Google is really letting their apps for education be private. You know, I don't want my kid associated with that. And so let's chat about that. Who's maybe wave to me real quick if you're experiencing something like that, or you foresee that would be the case. Anybody? Yeah. And so, what solutions have you guys approached that with?
student in our building that the parent refused to sign the acknowledgement that they had read the handbook because they wanted changes done to it. And a lot of the changes were board policies that I just don't have the ability to change. And a lot of his concern does have to do with the use of technology. And by not signing the user agreement and signing the handbook, it would technically limit his daughter from using the technology. We're just very careful about assignments. We don't really typically do alternative assignments, and I think Dad is okay. Mom's on board, Dad's not, and split household, so that makes it a little more difficult. We make sure we never post anything online of hers, that type of thing. But the way our policy is written, we actually are able to still allow her to use technology. So we're just very careful with what she creates then, and make sure that that does not go anywhere. But then we want her to still be able to use the technology, all the devices. So, just because of the way that policy is written, our superintendent can give her that ability.
Right.
So.
And so I think that that's really a comprehensive approach is the way to go with that. You know, you don't necessarily have to give them the online. They can have local-based things. That's good. It's not even really an alternative assignment. It's just being done with a different program. You know, I mean, that's the nice thing when you think about even just word processing, for example. What do we have? We've got Microsoft Word, we've got Apple's Pages, we've got Google Docs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on of how many word processors there are. For me, that again is why we don't do tech for tech. We do tech for targets. If the real target is to learn this and to demonstrate mastery of that, I don't care what format the artifact is. I just need you to demonstrate mastery for that. Now, in regards to parents who just don't want their kid having that, you know, we have to respect that. That's their right as the parent. And we have to follow our own guidelines that are set forth by, you know, the Board of Education for the given districts. I thought we were doing dance-off, man. Random dancing. It was happening. I was there. I was about to go to the Stone Hill box in the back. And so, you know, where do we go in our district, and what do I recommend as far as how to best handle that? I really believe that it comes down to parents will listen to teachers. If that teacher says, hey, here's the reason we want to use this, and here are the safeguards in place, I'm going to tell you my experience is 9 times out of 10, they're going to go, oh, well, I was just a little worried about it at first. I thought it meant this. That teacher contacting them, gosh, they'll listen to teachers till they're blue in the face. The moment a principal or an admin calls, we're aggressive now. Why are you talking to me? At least that's been my experience. I don't know if that's necessarily yours.
I think his problem or concern, or whatever you want to call it, is not so much with the device and for actually utilizing technology,
right,
but with policies in general and putting signatures to policies that he doesn't completely agree with.
And a lot of times that's just, you know, whether it be healthy or unhealthy suspicion of control or outside administrative influence. You know, some folks just don't like that, you know, and they will resist that. I think that the big key is to partner with them and to draw that bigger circle. Fine, we're going to include you and we're going to count you in. Let's talk about the why. Why are we wanting to do this? What is this going to help your daughter with in life? You know? And I think that's going to be your best bet, is to continue with that. Now, if they just say no, still, there's not a whole lot that we can do there. I mean, like I said, that brings us back to tech for target. If it's really about the learning and not the technology, then sure, I don't care what the artifact is. I mean, I disliked it as a teacher, but, you know, I had a kid who was in that very same boat, and no, okay, well, here's your pencil version, and I just try and make it as engaging as possible with the kid, you know, because I just felt bad. They're feeling embarrassed. Oh, yeah, my dad won't let me do this, and now I look like a sore thumb, and, you know, I just felt for her. But at the same time, I have great respect for parents' place in their kids' lives, and so let me join with. Now, eventually, by second semester, that dad did come around for me, and it just took time. It took frequent, hey, here's what we did. Now, your daughter did this, and that's cool, but look at this. This would have been so much fun for her, and I just want you to think about that. Now, that was from the teacher perspective, and my experience is they will listen to teachers before anyone else. So that's what I would offer to you. Any other questions in regards to that topic before we move on? And that's kind of a dry one. Yes?
So do you suggest having a open document permission slip saying you give teachers permission to use, apps that, using our kids have their own email address through our school.
Right.
So using that in general, or do we need to have a specific one for each one they're using?
So that's a great question, because there's the concept of, does a carte blanche, just overarching permission slip suffice? And the answer is actually no. You'd really want to check in with your district lawyers on that, because if it was real specific and very detailed and emphatic about all that, then yes, there are exceptions. But for the most part, each one of those needs a permission. Now, some districts have tried and have implemented just a carte blanche. You sign off on the technology acceptable use agreement, and that means we have free reign. Our lawyers have consulted us. It's probably not going to be ironclad. If you get into some things and find out that they're pressing on an issue, it's going to go in their favor. And so that's the unfortunate realities of that. Yes, I think Sandra, did you have a question as well?
I did. I was wondering, as a tech director, have you had conversations with parents related to screen time itself?
Lots of research on that topic.
I know, and my daughter-in-law is very much against too much screen time at different ages, and she's researched the age groups, for example. So, our grandson.
I love getting into conversations about what amount is too much.
Exactly. And when you're talking about screen, she's lumping it all together. So it's the technology time at school, it's the gaming system at home, it's the videos and everything else.
Oh yes, digital screens are everywhere, aren't they?
So yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
So do you at RAPEC have certain, like for example, what do you do in early childhood? Do you have restrictions, limitations, policies about that?
That is something that is strictly left to the parents to determine what's enough and what's not. We don't have a set policy. Now, in regards to our one-to-one classrooms, for example, we've started 3rd, 4th, and 5th, our one-to-one with Chromebooks. And so what they are allowed to do within their teams is determine where they want to go. We have some that are broaching into paperless. That's their big thing. We want to be paperless, and that's just amazing. Okay, great, we support that. Make sure you're talking with the parents. That's always going to come back to make sure you're talking with the parents. Explain why you want to do that, And so autonomy is given to a point. I mean, if the parent really just said, nope, I hate this, I don't want this, then we're going to revisit that, and we're going to discuss that with all of the stakeholders. And that's why I think that, it's a Wild West kind of scenario right now, because what is right, what is okay, what is not, all those studies are still ongoing, and so there's not an emphatic 8 hours is sufficient. You go to a doctor, they're going to say this. You go to another doctor, they're going to say that. And so I think that we get into dangerous waters myself if we go too far down establishing what is right and what is wrong there.
Building on this tech for target. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
That is tech for target. I have targets in my classroom that don't necessarily require a whole lot of technology integration. Let's face it, we have to make pinch pots in kindergarten, all right? I'm not going to use a lot of technology to create that pinch pot. I'll show them some video, we'll scaffold a little bit. You still have to get your hands messy with clay. That's what I still tell kids. There are some things where, as a teacher, from a teacher's perspective, I say, screen time needs to stop now. We need to make artwork, we need to do this. Paper will never go away in my classroom.
And I think that's just a healthy, good, as we call it, the hidden curriculum piece. You're talking about how to manage all of that. And that's what I would encourage any teacher to do, is to model what would be healthy. You don't want to have 100% of the time is on screen. Eye strain, all of these things. But my, doctor is going to be able to diagnose that this is not okay and not, And so I think that that's that Wild West era that we're in. Will it evolve? I think it will. I think that there's going to be a societal push for a universal experience that kids are getting in the schools. What that looks like now, I don't know. That's gonna be an interesting journey. Yes. I can't really see your name. What's your name?
Sandy.
Sandy.
We were talking about the same thing back here in our little breakout time. And I guess I think about these things because I'm a retirement age.
Right.
And I deal with things like arthritis, and my eyesight is getting worse, and my back is getting worse. And as I think back about where would I be had I been constantly using a
Right.
phone? And where would I be if I had constantly been typing? And where would I be if I had been constantly looking at a screen and sitting in a chair? It's not just the here and now. And I think that's what your daughter is saying. We've really got to think, and there is no actual, this is what it's got to be. But I do think that we need to think very, very seriously about what we're doing with our kids.
Right.
When they spend so much time. Because I know I can't sit and mess with my phone for long because of the arthritis in my hand.
Sure.
And I didn't grow up doing it. So what's a kid going to be like when he's 30 years old after doing that for 25 to 30 years?
And I think that does drive us back to the question of as well, what does the workforce look like in expectations of this? There's got to be that balance of all this, all these factors at play, you know? Now, do I believe that, 15 hours of screen time is healthy? No. Are some kids experiencing that? Yeah. That's the babysitter, and that's just a societal question that's got to be answered. And it's going to be answered in, different responses from various people for given reasons, And so my question for education is integrating technology. Is it tech for the sake of tech? Then stop it. Is it tech for the purpose of a target? Great, because now we're getting that concept of you're getting those 21st century skills that, quite frankly, we assume kids have and they don't. They know how to play. They can play on devices, most any of them. And they have a natural sense, just as children at that developmental age, to be interested enough to dive in and not worry about if they break it or not. I'm going to figure it out, because I'm interested. And so they have that natural curiosity that's going to drive them to figure things out. Whereas people our age and up are going to go, no, I don't need it, so I'm not going to worry about it. And so there's that question is, are we giving them that hidden curriculum piece of 21st century skills? Awesome. For the purpose of their learning now, yes, then that's good. If it's tech for the sake of tech, I'm out. Don't want to do it. And I would discourage anyone from doing that. That would be Will telling his art students, well, we're going to use virtual clay, even though we have access to real clay. Why in the world are you doing that? Now if you want to take a picture or a video of the process for the purpose of curation, beautiful. That's a nice blending of tech. And that's where I think that I would love for our principals across the state of Missouri to really reflect and go, how can, I don't have to be on top of the tech myself even, but I can have pointed conversations. Why are we doing this? What's your purpose? Is it for a target? Is it for learning? Or is it for, it's the new shiny object that it is. We pay a lot of money for it, and I'm pressuring you to use it. We have the systems that we accept. I really firmly believe that. Our systems, our school districts are the way they are because we accept them as they are. And if we want tech for targets, then we make that happen and we work for that and we have those tough conversations and we drive that change. If you're doing tech for tech because it's that latest shiny object and there was a lot of money spent on that, stop it. Be more reflective. Think. Collaborate. Ask the tough questions. Are you using that because you like digital clay? Or are you using that because it's going to help kids learn? I look at Will's classroom and the few times I get to go in there, I always see tech used for the sake of learning. It's always an accent to the learning process. And I've never seen it for, well, we just want to use a 3D printer. No, stop that, And so that's where we can be instrumental and helpful in this.
Thank you, sir. And you bring up some great points. But let's not forget the 99% of the kids who are going to dive right into it with parents' permission. All right? So I'm going to show you some examples right now of what we're doing in my classroom. It's one thing to get up here and give you concepts, all right? But let's get into the how as well. You got to balance both those questions, the why and the how. So what's this going to look like in your classrooms? Now, praise the Lord, we just got a grant for a 3D printer. It costs about $350. It's called an MD3. Our elementary students here at Stonegate Elementary in Great Neck School District design online using web-based computer-aided design programs their own projects that they can print out. So I'm going to share a secret with you, okay? Did I just get a 3D printer dropped in my lap because at a staff meeting I said I would like one of those? No. Here's the secret.
secret I'm going to give you, okay? And I give this especially to my teachers. If you want this technology, you want to be innovative in your classrooms, make the best with what you already have, all right? I showed administrators, I showed other teachers, I showed my students what was possible with the few computers that we had in our classroom. And we started doing computer-aided design long before we ever had a 3D printer. And then when I came to the RAPAC Foundation with a grant, I said, we're already designing this stuff. We just need the tool to print it out. Guess what? Our grant was approved just like that. Okay? We have a 3D printer. And little 7- and 8-year-olds are designing things. And you're thinking, okay, maybe they're designing like Legos. They go, Mr. Cadello, I'm designing a castle. I'm designing my future house. I need something to hold my iPad when I go home. They're designing these functional items, things that are integrated in their life. You want to talk about creativity? This is creativity. Remember those 3 points we talked about? So this is just one of the points of creativity in our classroom. Some of these are videos as well. You can click on those later in the presentation. Actually, this is one of my students, that's John. He is actually designing a chess piece for a chess set he was helping to design. Collaboration as well. These are actually student designs right down here. I'm going to click to the next slide. We were talking about creativity. Let's talk about collaboration. Remember I told you, not only just collaborating with our students and fellow teachers, but let's collaborate with the world, of course, in a safe way. The Nelson Atkins Museum of Art in Kansas City, some of you visited. One year, I love taking them every year. One year I couldn't take them. The schedules just weren't going to align. The stars weren't aligned. I couldn't take them. So I said, let's bring the Nelson to us. I'm going to play some of this video, just a short little clip. This is actually them taking a private tour via a docent who had an iPad through the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art on the day that they weren't open. So we had the museum to ourselves via Skype. It was one of the most amazing things we could have ever done. It was just wonderful. These are 3rd graders. And what's great is later on in this video, you see them coming up and asking her questions. Actually, right now, there's an iPad right here. They're asking her questions. So it's not just a video. So they're critiquing artwork at the same time. It was totally interactive. We loved doing it. How much money did I spend on that? I already had the iPad, Skype 3. All I had to do was set up an appointment with Nelson, who was very gracious in allowing us to do that. This is the Yellowstone National Park Skype clip that I had. I'm not going to play that. You can check that out later. We're doing landscapes. And I said, you know what? One day I was just brainstorming. A lot of this happens in our classroom. I'm thinking, you know what? We had a picture of Yellowstone hanging up, and I told kids, I visited that one time. It'd be great to have someone else tell you about it. And I thought, well, let's contact them. They have a whole program at Yellowstone built for Skyping with classrooms. So we got to do that as well. So collaboration with the world. Google Classroom. Is anybody in here have a school where you're utilizing Google Classroom? Can I see your hand? No one yet? We give whole presentations on these kind of things. Google Classroom is revolutionizing the way I teach, and it's revolutionizing many teachers the way they teach. Now, Google Classroom, is it just an LMS like Blackboard, Learning Management System? No, it's far more than that. I'd say it's education's version of Facebook. Can we give kids Facebook? No, we can't just give them Twitter. But yet you can take advantage of the social media functions inside of Google Classroom. I turned it into a little museum. You see this slide right down here? That's inside of our Google Classroom. It has tons of our artwork actually logged in. Kids can go into their own Google Classroom, look at other students' artwork, and critique them. They can turn it in. They can take questions. I got integrated assessment functions. I know this sounds crazy coming from an art teacher, but I love data. I love assessment. It drives my teaching all the time. When I first started doing Google Forms, I get full presentations just on Google Forms. When I first started Google Forms, I was just absolutely amazed at how much I was not teaching my students. Okay, I'm just confessing. You know, they all raise their hands, smile, and say, oh yeah, Mr. Cadello, we got it, we understand. Then I said, the data, 15%? Yeah. Let's go back. And I gave them a challenge. I made them my collaborators in the Google Forms. In Google Forms, you can put up the results. And I said, you guys got 15%. What do we want next time? We can get on Mr. Cadello. And so it became a competition. That data drove not just me, but my students to success. That's Google Classroom. And we have just an amazing time with that. Are there some little bumps along the way? Yes, you got to get kids to learn digital citizenship skills. I get whole presentations just on that. Jason was talking about, you know, all this, all the FERPA and COPA and all that. Digital citizenship skills should be an absolute requirement, K through 12. But yet, I don't see any entire classes on it. It should be an entire class just by itself, all right? How many times have we got to hear about malware, hear about trolling, hear about all these things online before we start doing something about it in a concise and purposeful way in education? Let me take a look. Have you take a look at another one. Virtual reality. Oh my dear. I picked this up years ago, 20 bucks online. You get it cheaper. Sometimes New York Times is sending these things out for free. All right. I take my phone, I drop it in here, and we explore the world with virtual reality. $20 and a free app. My students will explore art museums from all around the world. I say, hey, we're doing seascapes. Let's go to the Great Barrier Reef. And they have 360-degree video of you swimming with sharks in the Great Barrier Reef, and you're underwater. Do you think that gives kids some context?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that gets them excited? Do you think that gives them a little bit of inspiration in their projects? You better believe it. Virtual reality, Google Cardboard, free app, 20 bucks. And I just started doing this in my presentations years ago. People were like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if we can ever do that. Now I see people on a regular basis asking me about this. Google has put out an entire program called Google Expeditions, and it's being tested all around the world, from South America, Europe, the United States, and you have to sign up entire schools for it. Very soon, they will roll all that software out as free software so anybody can get it has. It's in a prototype version. So Google Cardboard, we use it all the time. Here's something that I wanted earlier, all right? Let's wrap this up a little bit. Are we looking at the immense opportunities we have with technology? My students come into my classroom, and there's no doubt in their mind that we are going to create something personal, something innovative, something that is personal, applicable to their life, all right? Let me ask you this question. This is a very important question. When you give kids technology in your buildings, do they look at that technology and say, what do I have to do? Or what do I get to do? I'm going to say that again. Do they ask, what do I have to do? Or what do I get to do? I shock my students. I teach them skills on, say, a program like Google Slides, talked about that earlier. And they come up to me, okay, Mr. Goodall, what am I supposed to do? I shock them. I go, what do you want to do? And they look at me like, no one's really ever asked me that question before. I say, well, yeah. What do you like? I like my cat. Well, let's look at my cat. Well, I like puppies, and they go through all this stuff. It almost shocks them. They're like, I can do what I want to do with this. As long as you're meeting our target, have a blast. Hey, we can actually have fun while we're learning, right? So those are just some of the examples that I wanted to show you here. If you have any questions about this, I can show you more a little bit later as well. I think we're going to wrap this up, right?
Yeah, we're getting pretty close on time. Just remind you of the back channel and the Twitter hashtag if you'd like to make any comments, suggestions on this, but then also talk to me about questions you have. We will follow up with you on that. Another thing that I'd like to mention to you is that Will and I have worked with Kevin Daniels Fired Up for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, we are beyond just in speaking engagements such as this. We are happy to come out more as consultants as well, right there with your collaborations. I've been brought in to do collaboration meetings throughout the day, and so that they just, as they go to collaboration meetings, cycle right on over to me. And we actually plan out, okay, let's be intentional about technology integration for the sake of learning. And let's get beyond the shiny new object, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of making plans that are for the purpose of engaging kids and doing so in a way that supports learning. One of the favorite things that I've used when in the classroom and also shared with others, and a lot of these resources that I mentioned are on this, and so again, you go to the Today's Meet / Fired Up, and then you'll be able to get these resources here. These are some of the things that I've used with students in the classroom. I've given to teachers to use. One of my favorites was teaching science with 5th graders. I'll go over here to Producer's Photo Bomb. And shared this with a number of other teachers. And it's a real simple Google slideshow. And all the kids did then was they had to go through and they had to take a picture, photobomb picture, using their device, and these were Chromebooks. I mean, they're using a webcam from a Chromebook, okay? We're not talking about high dollar stuff. And they're taking pictures out there with various producers, and you can tell it was fall at the time because there's no leaves on anything. But they had such an awesome time. They were outside. People think about technology integration and they think that same problem that you were chatting about. And all I'm doing is staring at a screen. That's awful technology integration. Nobody wants to just do that for hours on end. Oh gosh, that's like a cubicle job that people are like, oh, I don't want to stare at a screen all day, you know? It's just not engaging. And so get them outside, let them take the device outside. And in all my years, I had one device that had a cracked screen. Oh, I'll admit it, it was my bad too. And so I wasn't watching these kids well enough. And so sure enough, this one group, they were actually doing a video. And their video was in regard to the learning target we were working on at the time. And so we're outside and they're up on this hill over here and they're doing a commercial for their product that they're trying to imagine inventing. And this kid picks it up by the right-hand corner of the monitor. So you got a Chromebook open, he picks it up by the monitor, just walks. Of course, all the pressure, crack. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so anyway, the kids are gonna make mistakes. But you know what? How much do we spend on art supplies? How much do we spend on, you know, curriculum book supplies? There are so many ways that that device becomes a versatile tool when we look beyond word processing. Engage kids, let them be creative. One of my favorite things to do, I'll go back over here and show you this one. This was actually used in our gifted program quite a bit. And that was the, if I'm in the right one here, choice boards. Okay? Making a menu, no, not that, because it's signed in under will, my apologies. I'll change those so they're all open. But essentially what you have there is a tic-tac-toe grid, and the kids can make a choice. Giving autonomy, let them use their devices for the sake of targets and give them choices. Okay, here you go, you got 9 choices. Whichever artifact you want to create, go. Well, this kid doesn't like working in a group. You're not required to work in a group, you can do that on your own. Now, these 2 kids love working together. Fabulous. That's your artifact, and pick that. You know, and give them that opportunity to choose. Because again, if it's all about the learning goal or the learning target, then who cares what the artifact is? Does it satisfy that rubric? Does it satisfy that goal? Fabulous. Great. If yours is a movie, I love it. But what is going to be required? You're going to have to put forth the actual storyboard. You're going to have to go through intentional steps. It's not just a free-for-all, yeah, go, do whatever, I don't care. You know, that's just not a good approach to teaching. We don't know that, you know. But what about you? Okay, well, you just want to put forth a term paper. You want to do an essay. That's what you're just happy to do. Okay, that's cool. Now, sometimes I would take the kids and say, check that one off. You can't do an essay next time. Oh no, now I gotta work with a group. That's not my favorite thing. And so some kids, there's just one boy in particular, that's the first thing he would do is the group work. Check it off, good, I don't have to do that anymore. Okay, cool then. You had a requirement where you had to work with a team, and you made it happen. Good, check it off. I'm happy with that, go for it. But then there were other kids who they go, okay, well I already did that. Can I do that every single time? No, I'm sorry, you're gonna need to stretch too, you know? And so that's how you can use options, what we call choice boards, to give them those parameters that they can pick from and yet still stretch and grow. One last thing that I'll throw out there is this team meeting log. And again, I'm not sure why I have those locked out that way. They should be. This one's opened up. Team meeting logs, the kids actually use these. I started off and made these for my collaborative team there at the school. And then the principal fell in love with it because, again, in Google Docs, we all know the power of Google Docs is that share button. Oh, the most beautiful thing in the world. And so from there, I'd share it with my whole team. Well, then I thought, well, how about I just include my principal in this? I mean, they always have our meeting docs. They're good to go. The principal fell in love with it. It was like, we're going to use that for everybody. And so I had this I was a 5th grade teacher, a 6th grade team, this one particular 6th grade team that did not like that idea. They came to me, well, why'd you have to share that with them? Sorry, my bad. But then I got the bright idea, you know what, let's use this for my students when they were doing their teams, and then work together, so they assign each other the same roles. And then they established their own norms. Now, these were the staff norms. They would establish their norms, and they'd write those down. And so then they'd share that with me, and it was fabulous. I mean, it made their collaboration meetings as a team so effective. And the kids were, and these were fifth graders, like I said, so it's not like second grade. You know, I wouldn't have done that with second grade as in the same facet. But down below, you'll see that they had to give account for their meetings. There's space down there for that. And so they had to give their agenda notes and link to anything that was, you know, like their storyboards and stuff. And it's just fabulous. Use that to guide the process. Again, those are all on our slideshow resources that are free to you. Take them, copy them, put your own name on them. You own them. I don't care. You know, do what you want to do with them. Thank you guys again for being such wonderful listeners and participants. We did want to end with a little bit of Q&A. Will and myself will just kind of mingle through. I don't know what you want to do to as far as wrapping up, but Will, did you have any parting comments as well?
No, just to echo what you said. Fired up presentations. We're here to serve you. We do this all the time, and I remember giving a presentation up in Trenton, and I asked him, what would you guys like for me to focus on? He replied in an email, just 2 words, no fluff. I said, yes, sir. We don't do fluff at Fired Up. We're going to give, it's more workshops, aren't they? They're really to make sure that you're on track. You're our purpose, and your student success is our purpose.
Very good.
I think I just want to open up QA wise. You know, you've had the back channel, but from my perspective, what we've been through at Osceola still deals with infrastructure. I mean, this is all great stuff. We would love to hire both of these gentlemen into our buildings and say, let me give you any resource you want. Go fly, 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 type of thing. And a lot of us are that way too, in that I have all the tech. If you look at my building, you'll be like, wow, they've got all the tools. But what happens is that, and what I've dealt with the last 10 years is infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. And it's all dependent on geographical location and what I found who your providers are, because we have CenturyLink in our area, and they refuse to put a fiber optic line a half a mile from where the main highway is.
Awesome.
And because they refuse to do that, we are sitting at just 20 gig or meg, and I mean that's where we're at versus you're probably what, 100, 200?
Oh, easily.
200. Okay, the easily makes it very difficult for my world versus versus his world, because I have fired up people who want to run through a wall, and basically I give them a toothpick.
Right.
Go for it. Well, I'm sorry. I remember doing professional development to my staff where I tried doing all the online professional development where I'm going to meet you at your specific need. So we had it all paid for, ready to go. I was told by the tech department, oh, this will stream real easy. First day.
Didn't stream.
And nothing is worse for an administrator
You're welcome,
to create buy-in. To create buy-in and an approach to make them better and then to waste their time. Because what's the first thing that a teacher will do? No, we're not doing that. Right now, I have even some of the mentality of in my district where like, just give me a piece of chalk.
Right.
Just please give me a piece of chalk. I promise you, I will get them the same learning targets with a piece of chalk. And you know what? They're right.
They're right.
They're right. And so those are the problems that I've had in this realm. Isn't about being able to reach, yes, the resources sometimes difficulty because of money, but I believe, like these two gentlemen, where there is a will, there is a way to get it.
Sure.
Whether you're talking 3D printers, you've got between the foundations and all the different things, but what other questions or different realms are you guys dealing with that maybe they can kind of give you some feedback on in your districts? Warrensburg, are you doing one-to-one Google Chrome?
Or we're not there yet. Right now we're in the exploratory stage. They're identifying essentially what's going to go where as far as what tools we're going to acquire for elementary and what.
So like tablets for the primary versus Chromebooks,
iPads for primary and intermediate, and some sort of laptop for secondary.
Right. That's a fun stage. Are you guys dealing with various teachers who are letting you pilot through them, or?
Really no. not yet.
No, we have different devices throughout the district.
Right.
And I think that those teachers are providing feedback to the technology people in order to say, hey, here's what we believe that we need
Right.
at this level.
Well, our one-to-one move was actually not the intent. And so we started BYOD because we didn't have the finances to invest heavily.
Right.
And so from there, our, cohort groups that were working within the BYOD context drove hardcore, we want one-to-one bad. And so that evolved the approach and the technology integration plan to include a phased rollout. So that's why I said we're at third, fourth, fifth now. Next year will be second and sixth, and then so on and so forth until we get to the whole
Our big
district.
spring hurdle right now is we have 800 iPad 2s in the district that are being replaced and upgraded to iPad Airs. So, and that was kind of it wasn't a surprise, but it was a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't part of our plan.
It wasn't part of our plan. We didn't anticipate having to replace those with the new software upgrade.
Right. So what we did is, we went Chromebooks, but we have at intervals, so fifth grade, there's a new device. Every year you get to fifth grade, those kids come in, fifth grade's a new device year. So they keep the same device, they,
So it rotates great.
yeah, it keeps going with them until you hit fifth grade, then it's a new device year. And then also at ninth grade is a new device year. And so as we get to, like next year's gonna be, we've leapfrogged a little bit because our high school's demanding it hardcore. So we're gonna hit ninth grade as well. Basically, principals have put in extra investment beyond what the district has done. And so that's allowed us to shift those funds toward a ninth grade approach. And so now ninth grade is gonna be one-to-one, and that'll be a new device year as well, but they'll follow them for 4 years.
And having gone through that process, it's a constant conversation, asking hard questions too, because these devices, as we all know, are constantly evolving. The moment we get devices in our classroom, there's something better and brand new that comes out, and you gotta start planning for that on a constant basis. We're really talking about a huge culture shift in schools, from the computer lab and a few computers in the classroom to an entirely digital educational platform where you're constantly having these conversations. What's our new device? What's our next program we're doing? What's the update?
And a computer lab approach, it worked for when we used it, but it's a gone model at this point. And it promotes that same experience of, I'm in front of a screen and this is all I'm doing. There's no creativity, there's no collaboration. It's me in this glowing box, And so if possible, I get it, you're dealing with the context of what you have, and that's how we live our personal lives too. Here's what I can afford. And so, but as soon as you can, or even prior to when you can just get rid of it outright, I highly encourage getting a space that is an innovation space. And it's where you can go take devices as a class, and these kids are over here, working on even different levels of seating, and you're over there and you're working on X with a computer. You guys are over here doing a makerspace kind of thing, or if you don't like the makerspace approach, you guys are working on a collaborative team exercise that is not on the devices, but just kind of that innovation space where it's all about, I'm coming here, and a lot of places where we're doing it is in the library. Library has a creativity space or an innovation space.
How many of you guys know the term Genius Hour? Are you familiar with Genius Hour?
Oh, that's huge.
Genius Hour
Electric.
is something that we don't have fully implemented at Osceola, but we are definitely looking at that realm. So it'd be that computer lab would turn into either the Genius Hour, where you would go down for that allocated time. Right now we're at a 20-minute interval with it. We're just feeling it out.
And just to give a little background, there was Genius Hour, where that comes from. A lot of industries have done it, but Google drove a lot of that. They have 20% time at Google, so all the employees have 20% of their workday is devoted to any project you want. You are not required to stay on the same topic that you're employed to do. You can go on to any pet project for something that you've imagined. You can work collaboratively. It's not personal time. You're still developing. You're still working, but you choose what you're working on. And where the educational progress has jumped into that is, hey, letting these kids learn about what they're passionate about learning. You know, I mean, how many of us in school would have loved that? Give me a time where I get to choose what the heck I'm doing, you know, and what I'm learning. Now, I'm required that it's learning, but I get to pick where it is. Wow.
And then to add to that, think of it in this realm. You're not just teaching kids just this app. You're not teaching them just Google Docs. You're
Right.
teaching them the inherent skills in that, word processing skills that can be transferred to any app. And for example, that what happens in my classroom, I tell kids, we're going to learn Photoshop, but we're not using Photoshop. We're going to learn basic photo editing skills. And you can find 1,001 apps that have the same tools in there. So you're focusing on the skill as opposed to the app. So when it's updated, you have to go to a different device or whatever, you retain those skills and you're not app-centric, you're skill-centric.
Even your coaches, you know, if you have instructional coaches within your district who come in, encourage them as they're sitting down with the teachers to focus in on this whole concept of it's for the purpose of a target. It's for the purpose of a goal. You know, it's not about just, hey, the pressure. And I've seen the pressure. I've seen a lot of colleagues who, okay, well, they've spent all this money and it's in my room and I guess I have to turn them on, but I don't know what they're going to do with it. You know, and that's where I've graduated into or shifted into this position of, well, that's part of my job. Let me come in and chat with you. Here's some things you can do. Have you thought about this? And I love going to the collaboration sessions and just listening, like a fly on the wall. This most recent around Christmas time, this teacher goes, hey, this is what we're going to do. And she's talking with her team. And they were, I think, first grade team. And so they had this paper Christmas tree. And the idea was that they were going to use their fact families and they're going to put ornaments on the tree. And it was really fun, but it was all blue and cut out, and it has its place. It's good. I was just like, well, here's an alternative. I mean, it's pretty substitution based, you know, but put it together for you, and here you can use that in Google Draw if you'd like. And so the kids are dragging it and dropping it, and they can share it with one another and work collaboratively. And you're like, oh my God, how did you do that so fast? I was like, oh, this guy. Let me show you. I'll show you how I did it so fast. And so then that shifted into a little lesson. And I said, now here's the thing. You go make all yours. You make your own, you know. But I'd ask you to share them with me because I'd love to see what you're doing. So she's already put together like 17 different activities in this Google Draw thing. You know how teachers are, you know. It's like, oh, wow. And so she went crazy and she shared them all with me. And I'm like, dang, I would have never thought of that. That's really cool, you know. And so then I'm able to share those with other teachers in other buildings. And just get that culture of sharing in place. And from there, focus on targets, and it's going to really evolve on its own. Other questions?
Questions or anything? Now remember, technology will also make a bad teacher worse. Be very, very, very careful of that. Because I've seen that personally with all the initiatives and sharing the things and everybody, this is the vision. But you've got to be very careful because technology will make a bad teacher worse.
What does that look like?
Babysitting 101.
Right.
And so, you know, being able to go in as an administrator all the time and do your walkthroughs, you can very clearly see, is it for a target? Or is it for just occupying time? Because the room will look very, very engaging. The kids will love it.
Oh, that glowing screen, man.
Because
Wow.
the kids are they're playing with their games and different other things and stuff like that. So, well, if there's nothing else, no other questions, I'd like to give these two gentlemen a hand so they can do it. Remember, this also transcends a lot more. One, this is for your personal professional development, and then take back. There is so much to now peel through this onion to go back and say, wow, I know the person this needs to go to. I know a great colleague that needs this. I'm going to post this and send this all out to all the people that didn't make it today, et cetera, et cetera. But the other realm is that here's an extended service for you as well. You know, just like these two gentlemen said, they can come and meet your specific need. Wow, wait a minute, I'm right where he's talking about, and he's about 20 minutes away. And talking to that. So also the realm is showing you other resources that we can use up. And again, I met Kevin Daniel virtually first, and that was through Twitter and stuff like that. Saw him many times down at the conferences, so I met him personally, and he's extending it and doing all kinds of different things. So again, remember the service is there for you to go and talk to district-wise as well. Okay, to end.